Well, let's take a look at what is happening in the markets, and we start off with the JSE that just closed. In economic data, we did get retail sales for May coming out encouraging, up 4.2% year on year. Looking how the JSE has performed, relatively flat, but we are seeing a slight gain of 0.05%. That largely coming from the financial 15 that's gained almost 1%, industrial 25 that's climbed by almost 0.1%, but bucking that trend and actually plunging by more than 1.5% is the resources 10 complex. Let's take a look at what is happening in the U.S. markets, and in economic data there we did get the producer inflation print for June. On a monthly basis, it remained flat, so unchanged from May, and came out less than what investors had expected. Of course, painting, I guess, a still resilient picture in terms of the inflation picture after we saw the consumer inflation print yesterday coming in line with market expectations. And of course, markets are digesting U.S. earnings that are coming in. Three big banks topping analyst estimates again today, continuing the momentum that we saw yesterday. So we saw earnings coming from Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley and Bank of America. But those markets not in a good mood. We do have the S&P 500 declining more than 0.25%. The tech-heavy Nasdaq down by almost 0.3%, and the Dow declining by more than 0.1%. Let's check in on the markets across the Atlantic, and more economic data coming out. We did have the UK's inflation print for June actually heating up more than expected at 3.6% from 3.6% in May. Quite a mixed picture on that front. But mostly in green territory, with the DAX leading those gains, climbing by more than 0.25%. The FTSE 100 ticking up by more than 0.1%, but backing that trend is the CAC 40, 0.06% below that flat line. Let's check in on the currency scene and start off with how the rand is doing against some of the major currencies. The rand actually gaining a little bit of strength against the US dollar. It was above 17 rand 90 at some point. Now just below 17 rand 80 against the US dollar. The local unit at 23 rand 95 against the pound, and against the euro at 20 rand 80.